Well, it is the week before the new year. And so what happens the week before the new year, young Cody Winstead?
We celebrate?
That's right. We celebrate Christmas, right? So
Yeah, exactly. That's
this is Christmas morning, a week away from the start of the NFL's new year 2024. We open up some combine presents on this edition of Jonesing for Football. Bill Jones here in Dallas. Young Cody Winstead back in the Jonesing for Football studios in Philadelphia after spending a week at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. And oh, does he have some stories to tell, even about some of the prospects he witnessed last week. How you doing, young Cody?
very well, Bill Jones. Glad to be back with you. Had a great time in Indy. It's my second favorite events to cover besides the Ohio State Pro Day, but I'm not even sure we're covering that this year. Thanks, Marvin Harrison. Anyway, the combine is awesome. I love it. I'm kind of up close and personal with a lot of the players and get to see the workouts and stuff. It is a terrific week for those of you who haven't been.
Okay, and future episodes of Jonesing for Football, of course, will be leading up to the draft in late April. And when I mentioned the start of the new year, free agency, so much happening around the league. In fact, I would think for a lot of fans out there, this time of the year is just as exciting as the start of the season because this is when teams are being put together. And that's why we have a big green NFL draft scouting notebook that is now starting to be filled. It's going to become very voluminous by the end of March.
Are those actual words and written in that notebook, Bill Jones? Did I see some
Voluminous?
notes right there? Did you show me some
Yes.
some
Oh,
tips?
yes, I have. I have notes in there too. Can't read them
Okay.
though. Hope they couldn't. I hope the light put a glare on it so you couldn't get a screenshot of the notes
Like
that I
Jerry
have.
Jones' draft board back in the day.
That's
I
right.
would have I would have posted it on Jonesing for Football Twitter, and then the whole world would have seen your early impressions of the combine.
It wasn't that far back in the day either. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was 2 years ago when we did the post-draft press. Oh, no, I guess it was the pre-draft press conference.
I
He
think so.
revealed, he showed his card, he tipped his hand. And so I was able to go back and see where the Cowboys had players ranked that year. Oh, it was wonderful.
Great investigation skills by you, Bill Jones.
Uh, all right. So, what do we do on this post combine edition of Jonesing for Football? What do you think? Where do we
Yes,
start?
sir. Yes, sir. We're going to recap the NFL scouting combine, who stood out, and some of our favorite prospects and how they'll be impacted with the draft coming up. Also, as we just showed us, our first official look. I'm trying to see if I can see it again. The
Nope,
big green
nope.
NFL draft
Can't
scouting
see.
notebook. I want to see who's at top the quarterbacks page, but that makes its debut here. Some actual notes, some numbers when Bill Jones fully jumps in. And I can't wait to see who carved out the early pages in that. Mr. Jones, you have 3 or 4 guys, I think, that stood out. I have 3 guys. I would like to hear a quarterback that stood out for you in this combine.
Well, first off, let me ask you, because you gave me the assignment, you gave me your three players
Yep,
who are I have not done any research on. So those are going to be total surprises to all of you out there.
perfect.
Firsthand knowledge of who he saw at the scouting combine. And no, not the stuff that we watched on TV. Young Cody's behind the scenes. He's with Stacey Dales. He's with Daniel Jeremiah. He's with all those guys and gals that are able to get the inside story on all these players. So that's what we're going to get out of Cody on this show. What we're getting out of me are just sort of first impressions that I've gotten about certain players that you may or may not have heard of, probably have heard of over the course of the last 3 or 4 years them playing college football, but haven't really zoned in on. And so it's like my first take on some of these players. So what I have an assignment for you. You gave me three players. All right. And I'm going to tell you, I have picked a quarterback, a wide receiver, and a defensive player. So you tell me, who do you think that I have picked as my 3 players?
Well, let me
Which
start with the
quarterback do you
quarterback.
think?
Let me start with the quarterback. Let's see. I think you went with Spencer Radler.
Okay. Which wide receiver do you think I went with?
I think for wide receivers, you went with Brian Thomas Jr.
Okay. And which defensive player?
I think you went with Nate Wiggins.
Bah, bah, bah. Once again, young Cody, you are wrong, wrong, wrong. You think you read me like a book, but actually you don't. Why, as we start with quarterbacks, why would I pick Spencer Rattler?
You have connections to him, being a former Oklahoma Sooner.
Okay, here's my guy. Okay, at first blush,
Yep.
and he's not one of the so-called top guys, but I could not have been more impressed with this guy. Now you're getting a bigger hint on who this guy might be. You know what I'm looking for, what traits I'm looking for in players. Who's a player that fits that bill? I could not have come away any more impressed with a quarterback than this quarterback who I heard being interviewed, and then I saw a portion of his workout, and I'm starting to review his college tape now. Which one do you think I could not have been more impressed with?
JJ McCarthy?
No, no, but it's not one of the top ones. It is a guy who set the NCAA record for most collegiate starts in his career, 61, first at Auburn, then at Oregon. Bo Nix. I could not have come away any more impressed from in fact, I would venture to say that any NFL teams that interviewed Bo Nix at the combine,
Yep.
they're sitting there walking away from that going, we got to have this guy on our team. I mean, just listen to him talk. You can tell that he has grown up with football being poured into his veins from day one. Of course, and his dad, a longtime coach, coached him in high school in Alabama, but he was born actually in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, where his dad was the head coach at little Henderson State University, right across the street from Cliff Harris's alma mater, Ouachita Baptist. But Bo Nix, of course, as a true freshman at Auburn, starts, and he starts no less than 13 games, goes 9-4 as a true freshman. 5-star coming out of Alabama, Henson Valley High School in Alabama.
Yep.
And he starts for 3 years at at Auburn, and then transfers and starts for 2 years at Oregon and put up unbelievable numbers at Oregon. His stats this year at Oregon, he completed 77.4% of his passes for 9.6 yards per attempt, 45 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he was, okay, that was a league that had Caleb Williams, the #1 pick in the draft, was in that league, right?
Michael Penix?
Penix was in that league and had his team in the college football championship game.
Yep.
And who was the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year, though? It was Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So just go back and listen to his interviews, and you'll be blown away by his knowledge of the game. I have no idea whether Bo Nix is going to be able to start in the NFL, but that guy is going to be on an NFL team for at least the next decade as a backup quarterback or in part-time starter. I haven't dug into his tape to exactly see what happened at Auburn and, exactly why he put up the big numbers at Oregon. But I, again, could not be more impressed with a guy than Bo Nix.
Well, you're correct. One, he's 24 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So he's 2 or 3 years older than a lot of these other guys. Number two, you mentioned his dad, a coach. He was also a star quarterback at Auburn.
That's
So
right.
his dad has been around, and he grew up around the game his entire life. So it makes sense that he's kind of a football junkie and knows everything to do about it.
And I love the fact that he's been a 5-year starter at two different major college programs. And I love the fact that here he's got Auburn in his blood through and through. And he had, you could say it was up and down against the toughest competition in the country, that alongside
Yes.
the Big Ten, right?
Yep.
But he had big moments. He won the Iron Bowl his true freshman year at Auburn, at victory over LSU the second year. Now he says he was miserable playing for Brian Harsin at Auburn, and it felt like he needed a change of scenery. But he says that he thinks that the best thing that he does is process information. And he believes that and it's post-snap processing information is probably the best thing that he does, which goes back to growing up in the game.
Yep.
And he's going to be as prepared as you could possibly be to play. In fact, I will venture to say, after the news this week which was expected, of the Denver Broncos releasing Russell Wilson, I would not at all be surprised if Sean Payton has his eyes on this guy, Bo Nix, as his quarterback.
I just looked at a mock draft before we started this podcast. Said number 17, the Denver Broncos go with Bo Nix.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. Good projection there for you. All right, Bill Jones. I like Bo Nix. I feel like there's a ceiling there. He's been one, being at Oregon, and I kind of studied multiple games from him before I went to the combine. A super quarterback friendly offense. So again, there's motions, there's a lot of quick screen passes, jet screens, tunnel screens, all that, smoke screens, and not as much of the traditional NFL drop back, stand down the barrel, stare down the barrel, throw it over the middle, those types of passes. But he can clearly throw it. It's just I'll be interested to see how much room, how much growth there is from him being 60 starts into his career already, while some other guys have 15, 20.
I just think and again, I haven't gone back and looked at his games closely enough to make a real judgment myself on exactly what his ceiling is in the NFL. I liken him to Kirk Cousins. I remember when Kirk Cousins came from this standpoint, he has that leadership and maturity and tangibles that Cousins had coming out of Michigan State. And I just remember that draft, even though everyone was talking about RG3 and Andrew Luck, I could not watch enough Kirk Cousins. I'm sitting there going, I think this guy has an opportunity, and in Washington, of course, took him in the 4th round.
Yep.
And maybe in that draft, Bo Nix is a 4th round pick. I don't know, but we'll see where he goes here. The landscape kind of changes on all these, the value of the quarterbacks, and there's been a ton of misses in the 1st round since then as well. But I bet you I watch a whole bunch of Bo Nix here in the next month.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. My first player is a tailback whose performance at the combine likely made every team in the league go back and double check his file. That's Isaac Guerendo from Louisville. Got everyone's attention with his 4.33 40-yard dash, fastest among all the running backs. And he did so at 6 foot, 221 pounds. There were 7 players who ran 4.35 or faster last week, and Guerendo was the heaviest by 12 pounds. So a truly rare combination of size and speed, and that was just the beginning of his athletic showcase. He led all backs in the vert, 41.5. Second best broad jump, 10.9. And he was top 5 in the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle. A little background on Guerendo, Mr. Jones. Finished up his career at Louisville after spending 5 years at Wisconsin. He dealt with hamstring and foot injuries there, that impacted his availability, plus obviously that stacked running back room that he dealt with in Madison that featured Jonathan Taylor and Braylon Allen. His 1 year with the Cardinals was very productive, over 1,000 scrimmage yards, averaging over 6 yards a carry and 11 touchdowns. I really liked his high school accomplishments too, Bill Jones. He was named the top wide receiver in Indiana his senior year, and also excelled in track, winning 3 state titles in the 100 meters, the 4x100 relay, and the long jump. So clearly he's a dynamic athlete. And what made last week even more cool was he's from Clayton, Indiana, about 30 minutes from Indy. So he balled out in front of a lot of friends and family. And oh yeah, those NFL front offices as well. I'll be keeping an eye on him over the next 6 weeks. Was projected as a 4th or 5th rounder, but with that performance in Indy, plus a running back class that doesn't have any real headliners, maybe Garendo has positioned himself to sneak into that 3rd round. So Bill Jones, make sure Isaac Garendo has a page in that big green notebook.
Oh, he most definitely does. And he has circles around those measurables that you talked about, the 4.33, the 155, 10-yard split, the 41.5 vertical, the 10.9 broad jump, the 6.94 cone drill. Oh, I love this time of the year where I can circle those numbers.
All right. You got any stars? Do you do the stars, Bill Jones, or you just circle?
I will eventually do stars.
Okay.
Because there were a ton of circled numbers. You could really tell in this combine the training that these athletes do, and also the way agents approach it these days by not doing certain drills,
Correct.
measurables, especially. You won't find very many cone drills in this at this combine.
You're right.
Cone drills, especially for let's say for an edge rusher, that's one of the most important drills they do. And the agents do not want teams to, if a player
they don't want them to have a bad time.
What's that?
They don't want them to have a bad time.
Yeah, that's right. Because
I'm looking at the DNs right now. 5 DNs did the 3 cone drill. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it's better to not know than know that they're not good at it, I guess.
That's right. Because the agents will tell you that doesn't tell you jack about whether that guy can get to the quarterback or not. It just tells you if my guy ran a 7.4 3-cone drill, that just means we didn't train for it.
Sure. So, all right, Bill Jones, do you have a wide receiver?
I do have a wide receiver, and you thought my wide receiver was whom?
I forgot.
Ryan Thomas Jr.
Oh, yeah, I loved Ryan Thomas Jr. when he ran 4.33. I was a little shaky on the hands, but 4.33 from that big, that's impressive.
There's a number of wide receivers that I could have picked.
Yes.
But I decided to go with one that I have some working knowledge of.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you have a working knowledge of this guy, but I figured I know who it is now.
Who are you going to say?
Luke McCaffrey.
Well, I like that. I like Luke McCaffrey, and I like Ladd McConkey too.
What about Ricky Pearsall?
Well, I've got circled numbers there: 42,
okay.
a 10.9, and a 6.64. But
I have no idea who you're picking. I give up.
I'm going with the 4.21.
Nice.
Xavier Worthy out of Texas, who, by the way, will turn 21 years old on draft day, basically. April 27th is when he turns 21. I love that about him too, young, and he certainly picked the right time to turn pro. After 3 years at Texas, he's from Fresno, California, actually led Fresno, California's Central East High School to their first ever CIF state championship, a 15-0 season back in 2019. And of course, his 2020 season was canceled because of the pandemic. And so he goes to Texas. He was first recruited and committed to Michigan, and then flipped to Texas. And as a freshman at Texas, was the Big 12 Offensive Freshman of the Year, freshman All-American. He had 62 catches, 12 touchdowns, his freshman year. He fell off a little bit his sophomore year as far as those numbers. He did have 60 catches and 9 touchdowns, but maybe it's because against Oklahoma he didn't have as good a game his sophomore year as he did his freshman year when he racked up 261 yards receiving against Lincoln Riley's defense, Alex Grinch's defense, which wasn't a record against that defense. It was just a day in the walk.
Just another week.
Yeah, that's right. And then his last year at Texas, 75 catches, down on touchdowns because Adonai Mitchell was scoring touchdowns as well. I like him also, by the way. But also second team All-American as a punt returner this past year, averaging 17 yards a punt return. And third all-time in UT history books with 26 touchdowns in his career. In other words, he's not just a 4.21 flyer. Xavier Worthy is a football player too. And I got one more thing about the 4.21. Is it more impressive to you that 165 pounds, Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21, or is it more impressive that his Texas teammate at 366 pounds, T'Vondre Sweat, ran a 5.27, was just 1 second slower, and it was 201 pounds heavier than Worthy?
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder, yeah, I should have thought of that. That would have been a good Twitter poll question right there, Bill Jones. That's well done. I would still say the fastest time to ever run the combine is more impressive.
Well, here's what
the big man is big too.
Here's what T'Vondre Sweat is saying to Xavier Worthy. Okay, buddy, that's nice. You ran a 4.21. Now, here's a 100-pound weight. Put that in your left hand. Here's another 100-pound weight. Put that in your right hand and try to run a 5.27 now.
Yep. Well, that's fair. That's a good point. I was in the building, Bill Jones, when Xavier Worthy ran his 4.21. I recorded it on my cell phone because, as you know, he ran 4.25 in his first attempt, and everyone was like, oh, like he's probably done. He's probably happy with that time. And I was tracking it, and I saw him run back around to the line, and I was sitting next to some of my coaching friends, and I said, hey, he's going to go again. Like, he's not putting on his pants. He's not putting on his hoodie. He's not, like most guys are dressing up because they're done for the day. He was ready to roll. And when he thought, I was like, okay, this guy thinks he's going to do better than 4.25 or he wouldn't be running again. And then he went 4.21. I'm recording it on my phone, and the explosion from the fans was unlike anything I've ever seen in my 2 years at the combine. The crowd went wild. I think there were 16,000 fans there. And when he ran that and they posted the time, the place just erupted. And obviously he went on that victory lap. That was awesome. That was as cool of a moment as I've seen in the combine in a long time.
Wow. Was it as cool a moment as him scoring a touchdown against Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl?
Probably cooler for me. I can't speak for you, but I would say probably cool. The other thing, how about this? So we're shooting video of these wide receivers entering the stadium, getting ready to work out on Saturday. And I've got a list of wide receivers, and they're in order as far as their number, and it's Odunze and Neighbors and all these guys. At the end of the list is Xavier Worthy, and he's on my list. And I have our photographer shooting him. I'm like, look at this dude's locked in. Let's shoot him. Xavier Worthy had his sunglasses on. He had his chain on. I was like, I don't know this guy right here, but this dude can roll. So, and then he ends up running the 4.21. So that was awesome. That all paid off. And I'm really happy for him because the interview was epic as well.
Yeah. He, at his size, 5'11", 165, he's taller than Cavante Turpin, but it's kind of the same, it's the same weight probably that Cavante carries, 160, 165 pounds. And he was able to stay healthy for 39 starts at Texas. So I don't know how long a career he will have, but he will make an instant impact in the NFL in some capacity.
We need to say this because this is important, Bill Jones. This is not a John Ross. This is not a Marquise Goodwin. This is not a Tyquan Thornton, basically just a sprinter on a football field. If you go back and watch Xavier Worthy, go watch the routes that he runs, the separation that he creates. He is a real football player. You mentioned it, but this guy is a real wide receiver. Oh, yeah, who can also be the fastest player in the league potentially. So he's not just a sprinter. He is a football player.
As I would prepare for the Texas game every year and get with the Oklahoma coaching staff, he was the one guy that I would point out to Brent Venables. This is the guy you have to be concerned with, Xavier Worthy. I'll just put it that way.
Well done. You have an eye for this sort of thing, Bill Jones.
Yeah.
Can I give you my wide receiver?
Yes.
Okay. I've worked at the combine for the last 2 years, been around all the prospects. And one of the things that I pay attention to is guys that are significantly bigger than everyone else in their position group. Last year, it was Anthony Richardson and DeJuan Jones. This year, the first person I noticed was Johnny Wilson, receiver from Florida State, an absolute monster, 6'6" and 3/8, 231 pounds. And he put up some good numbers as well. 4.52 40-yard dash, 37 in the vert, 10.8 broad, all really impressive when you consider he was the tallest and heaviest wide receiver in the group. He transferred to Florida State after spending 2 years at Arizona State. With the Noles, Wilson compiled 84 catches, more than 1,500 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. And last year, he formed a dynamic receiver duo with Keon Coleman, with both guys ended up being all ACC. I like Coleman as well. I thought he did a nice job in the workouts.
I love it.
Something, Bill Jones?
And by the way, you see all those Florida State guys at the combine?
Yes.
The Florida State guys that are going to be high draft picks?
Oh, for sure.
It's crazy that Florida State didn't get into the college football playoff. It is crazy. People thought that Florida State, the talent level at Florida State was what it has been the last 15 years or whatever. Their talent level, there's a reason that they went unbeaten this season, and that reason was on display at the scouting combine this weekend. It's a shame that a team goes 13-0, wins its conference, has that kind of talent, which was the equal of the talent that's put out there by Alabama and Georgia this year. I'm talking this year. They had the talent on that team, as evidenced by who's in this combine. It's crazy.
Except for the quarterback, Bill Jones. They were down to their second or third quarterback.
Yeah, and their quarterback, who was quarterbacking them against a Louisville team the year before, led them to a come-from-behind victory when Jordan Travis got hurt in the game. It's crazy that the committee didn't let them in that tournament. Anyway, off that soapbox, now we move on to other things.
Well, you say that, but then what was the score when they played Alabama in the bowl game? Oh yeah, it was 60, or Georgia in the bowl game. It was 63-6.
Right, because none of these players played in that game.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
Literally, none of these players played in that game.
All right. Hey, let me finish up on Johnny Wilson. The reason I think he is intriguing to me, size and speed, obviously, but he will be difficult to guard for defenses. At 6'6", he has a huge matchup on cornerbacks, and his solid 40 and 20-yard shuttle gives him a quickness advantage over most linebackers and safeties. He also has incredible length. Check this out, Mr. Jones. Johnny Wilson's wingspan is 84.5 inches, which is the most ever by a wide receiver on record at the combine. So jump balls, back shoulders, 50-50 balls. I like his chances, especially in the red zone. And finally, he's also a really good blocker and takes pride in it, which makes playing tight end a distinct possibility. Maybe he moves that direction. So he has versatility. He can play all over the offense, do whatever's necessary. And I think he showed down in Indy, really improved his stock, and he's probably going to be a day 2 pick, but I like me some Johnny Wilson.
Yes, and I would have liked to have seen him play in the Rose Bowl against Michigan. Okay.
All right, do you have a defensive guy for me, Mr. Jones? We each got one defensive guy. I guess Wiggins.
Yeah,
that's not right.
I didn't go with him.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay. You know who I went with? Cowboys need a linebacker.
I picked a linebacker.
You did?
Well, mine's a D end. That might.
I'm talking about an inside linebacker. Cowboys need an inside linebacker. I got your inside linebacker. He wears number 11.
I was going to say Peyton Wilson.
Yes, Peyton Wilson, North Carolina State. You read me like a book. 6'4",
On my 10th guess.
6'4", 233 pounds. What did he run at the combine? He ran a 4.43 with a 154 10-yard split. And you look at his production numbers at North Carolina State. He won the Bednarik Award his last year there. He won the Butkus Award. He battled through injuries, though. Now, that's the knock against him, are the injuries.
Yeah.
His first year at North Carolina State, he didn't play due to a knee injury. Then he played the next 2 years. In 21, he had 2 separated shoulders in the same game and continued to play, but then was out for the year, and then 2 more years. That's the other knock you'll find against him. He's older. He's 24 years old, but I don't have necessarily an issue with that because I'm only looking at my interior linebacker signing 1 contract with my team anyway. I just want 4 years out of you, Peyton Wilson. As a what round? What round do I want to take Peyton Wilson in?
Second
round would be okay. Here's what the intelligence that I am hearing. By the way, his brother is also a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers. You talk about an athlete, not only football, but he was a wrestling state champ in high school, also all-conference lacrosse player as well. I mean, I love his interview. He wants to be the most physical, violent guy on the field, and he plays like that. That's why he gets hurt.
Yeah.
So with the injury concerns, and there is an injury concern, my understanding on Peyton Wilson, he's gonna drop. He's got first-round talent. He's not going to be drafted in the first round, and there will be teams that will have him off their board due to a medical.
Wow.
And he could even be available late in the 3rd round. And I might even wait around on him until the 3rd round if I'm the Cowboys, and hoping that he drops that far. But I'll just put it this way: eventually, he has an issue that needs to be taken care of, and it's just a question of when.
Question for you: do the Cowboys have any history of taking injury riddle or injury question linebackers throughout their history? Have they ever done that?
I would take that guy again, meaning not Jalen Smith, but Sean Lee.
Okay.
I will take Sean Lee again, and
okay.
And meaning not Leighton Vander Esch, who also had anytime you drafted in the first round a guy who's wearing a neck roll, he may not last very long.
True.
Yeah.
True. All right. Well, I liked Peyton Wilson too. He ACC Defensive Player of the Year, unanimous All-American. Clearly, if you could get him in the 2nd or 3rd round, that's a pretty good value pick.
We'll know more probably as we get closer to the draft, whether you need to take him in the 2nd round, or, I mean, he could fall 3rd, 4th, 5th round due to his injury issue.
Yeah. Okay. Listen up, Bill Jones. My last player is a 6'3", crazy athletic, do-it-all edge rusher from Penn State. Does that description remind you of anyone?
Did he wear number 11 at Penn State? Or in the NFL, will he wear number 11?
Maybe if he goes somewhere other than the Cowboys, he could wear 11. But the guy is Chop Robinson, and he had himself a hell of a combine. 4.4, 840. He was 4.25 on the 20-yard shuffle. Both were 2nd best among the edge players. He also went 10.8 on the broad jump, which was tied for best among the group. So the guy's athleticism is right there with the best ends we've seen over the last few years. Dallas Turner, Will Anderson, and yes, the Cowboys number 11, Micah Parsons. So how about his production? It's not as high as some of these other ends. 41 tackles, 17.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks over the last 2 years at Penn State, but he was a 3rd-team All-American in 2023 and All Big Ten in each of the past 2 seasons. You watch him play, and he can be a force with his speed and bend off the edge. He doesn't just attack quarterbacks. he attacks the ball, forcing a couple fumbles this year. Now to the Micah Parsons comparison. Same height, similar weight, not quite as fast as Parsons, but a 4.4 D end at 254 pounds is something special. The big difference is where they lined up. What makes Micah so unique is he can play everywhere along that D line, inside, outside. We've seen him at linebacker, even though I do think the Cowboys have probably ended those linebacker days for Micah. Chop was primarily just an edge rusher, coming off around the end, beating those tackles, trying to swipe down on the ball. So I'm guessing whatever team drafts him will look at moving him around and trying to find a good matchup for him to beat on the offensive line. He might not be drafted as high as Micah, who went 12th overall, but I still think he's probably a late first-round player. His combine performance should cement that, and I just have a feeling he's going to end up with a really good team and make a huge impact. And here's who has the last 5 picks in the first round, because I think this is where Chop Robinson could end up. Bills, Ravens, Lions, Niners, Chiefs. If he ends up on one of those teams, it's going to be scary, Mr. Jones. So Chop Robinson was a combine standout for me.
I'll throw another team in there.
Who?
Would it be scary if he lines up opposite Micah Parsons with the Cowboys?
Very scary.
What
That
do you
would
think
be fun
of
to watch.
What do you think of that?
I like it. That'd be fun.
You know, people talking with the Cowboys, oh, they got to take an offensive tackle, they get whatever. Okay. If I've got this guy and you've got him projected at, let's say the Cowboys have him projected as a first rounder, and he's there at 24, or I can take your 6th rated or 7th rated offensive tackle, give me Chop Robinson.
Yeah. Especially in a deep offensive.
DeMarcus Lawrence is sitting there 32 years old now. And how much longer is he going to play? And you line him up opposite Micah. And by the way, Micah, as you pointed out, Micah ran a 4.36 at his pro day. He didn't run at the combine, but a 4.36 at his pro day. And Chop Robinson ran a 4.48 at the combine. The other thing I just noticed pulling up Micah's numbers, 11-inch hands.
I saw that too.
And 9-inch hands for Chop Robinson. You have anything more you want to say about Chop Robinson before I have something else I want to say about hands?
No, sir. I'm Raph. Thank you. Thanks for checking now.
Which will bring us back full circle to my quarterback, Bo Nix. One of the most important numbers that you get at the combine, hand size. He has Babe Laufenberg-like 10-inch hands.
Wow.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
Wow, he's destined for greatness. That's what that means.
Yeah. Do you think Babe has 10-inch hands?
I've shaken hands with Babe obviously hundreds of times in my life, and they are significantly larger than mine. Just engulf
they
my
swallow
entire...
you, right? They just swallow you. Yeah.
Yes. Did you see Michael Penix's hands, by the way, Mr. Jones?
They're slightly larger than Bo Nix's hands. He has 10.5-inch hands.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
But his is a left hand. How did you measure his right hand?
I don't think they do that, but I'm not sure. Maybe
well, they should. It's whatever, especially for a quarterback. You better use the hand that you're going to be throwing the football with. Caleb Williams, 9 3/4-inch hands. So he's a little shy of that 10-inch landmark that you're looking for.
Yep.
Drake May, 9 1/8-inch hands.
Yep.
Jaden Daniels did not get a measurement, I don't think.
No, didn't do any measurements.
What's up with that? We're criticizing Caleb Williams that he didn't get a physical and all that stuff. Well, what about Jaden Daniels? Checking all the boxes otherwise, but didn't do anything at the combine.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to see him throw. I wanted to see him run. I wanted to see him do everything. Hey, can I say the 3 guys, by the way, 3 honorable mentions for me, were actually guys that I mentioned on our previous pod in the All-Star game recap. Ladd McConkey, 4.39. We'll take that. Quinyon Mitchell, the corner from Toledo, 4.33. And this is what I loved about him. This is why I love Quinyon Mitchell. 4.33 40, second best among corners. He had 20 bench reps. He actually did the bench as a corner and led all corners with 20 bench reps. Take that. In an era where very few guys are doing the bench anymore, I love that Quinyon Mitchell did that. And Braden Fisk, I told you about him. And then he ran that 4.7 8.40 and then gave us that, oh yeah, as he passed that line. And I was like, oh yeah, that's my guy right there.
Yeah, but Quinyon Mitchell only has 31-inch arms. And so it's a lot easier. Cody, how long are your arms?
I don't know. I didn't get measured at the combine. I'm like Jaden Daniels.
Do you think you could do 20 bench reps?
No.
225 pounds? How many do you think you could do?
Between 6 and 8.
Really?
I lift, I mean, a good amount, normally 3 days a week, but still, I'm not doing much more than that.
Okay. Well, it's easier for you if you have shorter arms, you can lift it more times, right?
Correct. And I do have long arms. I just don't know what they are.
Well, I think this was exciting. This definitely kicks off the whole draft process for me. And now I just have to figure out time and in my travels to baseball spring training the next couple of weeks to get inside my big green notebook and really start making it voluminous.
Well, Bill Jones, we know you have to prioritize that over sleep. So if it means you got to do it in the middle of the night, that's what you got to do because we're counting down. I mean, we're 6 or 7 weeks away from the draft.
That's right. And you'll be getting text messages from me at 3 o'clock in the morning. Someone that I come across in the big green notebook.
That's what I need. So then I can wake up and have a list of guys to look at. That's why we're friends, Bill Jones, because we help each other out come draft time.
Yep. Okay. I can get together again next week after my trip to Surprise, Arizona to check in on the world champion Texas Rangers. So how about we do it then?
Let's do it. Maybe a little NFL free agency recap. We'll chat a little bit of that. And maybe we even do 2 podcasts coming up and we, maybe we get into some positions or some quarterbacks or we'll figure it out as far as our next pod.
I love it. Love it. All right. Enjoy your new year. Happy New Year, everybody. And we will see you the second or third day after the NFL New Year begins next week on the next edition of Jonesing
for Football. Love you, babe.